The fluorescent lights of the high school hallway buzzed faintly, casting a pale glow over the sea of students rushing to their next class. Among them was Jamie, a junior who preferred the quiet corners of the library to the chaos of the cafeteria. Jamie was the kind of person who could blend into the background effortlessly soft-spoken, with a knack for observing rather than participating. They had a small circle of friends, but even with them, Jamie often felt like an afterthought. It wasn't that they minded. Solitude had its comforts. But sometimes, in the quiet moments, Jamie wondered what it would be like to be seen, truly seen, by someone. Alex Carter, on the other hand, was impossible to miss. He was the school's golden boy, the kind of person who seemed to exist in a different universe altogether. With his easy smile, perfectly tousled hair, and a confidence that bordered on arrogance, Alex was the center of attention wherever he went. He was the captain of the soccer team, the lead in the school play, and the subject of countless whispered conversations in the hallways. Jamie had noticed him, of course. How could they not? But they'd never dared to imagine they'd actually cross paths. Alex was untouchable, a star in a constellation Jamie could only admire from afar. The accidental invitation happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Jamie had been working on a group project for history class, and their best friend Mia had suggested they all meet at Jamie's house to finish it. Jamie had agreed, typing out a quick text to Mia. "Hey, wanna come over tomorrow after school? We can work on the project and maybe order pizza." But in their haste, Jamie had sent the message to the wrong number. It wasn't until they saw the reply that they realized their mistake. "Sure, sounds fun. What time?" The response wasn't from Mia. It was from Alex. Jamie's stomach dropped as they stared at their phone, panic rising in their chest. How had this happened? They scrolled through their contacts, realizing they'd accidentally selected Alex's number from a class group chat. For a moment, Jamie considered telling Alex it was a mistake, but the thought of explaining themselves was too mortifying. What if Alex thought they were some kind of creep? What if he told everyone? Before Jamie could overthink it further, they typed back. For PM? My place is 12 Maple Street. Alex's reply came almost instantly. Cool, see you then. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Jamie couldn't focus on anything, their mind racing with questions. Why had Alex agreed so easily? Was he just being polite, or did he actually want to come? And what was Jamie supposed to do now? They couldn't cancel. That would be even more awkward. When Jamie got home, they immediately called Mia, who laughed so hard she nearly dropped the phone. "Jamie, this is amazing," she said between giggles. "You accidentally invited the hottest guy in school to your house. This is like something out of a rom-com." "It's not funny," Jamie protested, though they couldn't help but smile a little. "What am I supposed to do?" "Just go with it," Mia advised. "Who knows? Maybe it'll be fun." Fun. Right. Jamie wasn't so sure. But as they hung up the phone, they couldn't shake the tiny flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this accidental invitation could lead to something more. The next afternoon, Jamie stood in their living room, nervously rearranging the snacks they'd set out on the coffee table. At exactly 4 p.m., the doorbell rang. Jamie took a deep breath, trying to steady their racing heart, and opened the door. There he was, Alex Carter, in all his glory, leaning casually against the doorframe with that trademark smirk. "Hey," he said, his voice smooth and teasing. "Ready to work on that project?" Jamie swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Yeah, come on in." As Alex stepped inside, Jamie couldn't help but wonder if this was the start of something incredible, or the beginning of a disaster. Either way, there was no turning back now. The living room felt smaller with Alex in it, his presence filling the space like a magnetic field. Jamie hovered awkwardly near the couch, clutching a notebook to their chest, as if it could shield them from the intensity of Alex's gaze. Alex, meanwhile, seemed completely at ease, his eyes scanning the room with casual curiosity before landing back on Jamie. "Nice place," he said, his tone light but laced with something that made Jamie's stomach flutter. "Cozy." "Thanks," Jamie mumbled, setting the notebook down on the coffee table. They gestured to the snacks. I got some stuff if you're hungry." Alex raised an eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips. "You really went all out, huh? Trying to impress me." Jamie's face burned. "No, I mean, it's just," Mia said. Alex laughed, cutting them off. "Relax, I'm just messing with you." He grabbed a handful of chips and flopped onto the couch, stretching his long legs out in front of him. "So what's the plan? Are we actually doing this project, or are we just going to hang out?" Jamie hesitated, unsure how to respond. They hadn't expected Alex to be so casual, so flirty. It was disarming, and Jamie wasn't sure if they loved it or hated it. "We should probably work on the project," Jamie said finally, sitting down at the opposite end of the couch. They opened their notebook, trying to focus on the notes in front of them, but it was impossible with Alex so close. For the next hour, they made a half-hearted attempt to work, but Alex seemed more interested in teasing Jamie than discussing the causes of the French Revolution. He leaned in closer than necessary when pointing something out on the page, his shoulder brushing against Jamie's. He made jokes that left Jamie laughing despite themselves, his voice low and warm. And every time Jamie glanced up, they found Alex watching them with an expression that was equal parts amused and intrigued. "You're really smart, you know that?" Alex said suddenly, catching Jamie off guard. Jamie blinked, their pen hovering over the notebook. "What? I mean, you're always so quiet in class, but you've got, like, this whole thing going on." Alex gestured vaguely at Jamie's notes. "It's kind of impressive." Jamie didn't know how to respond. Compliments from Alex felt like being handed a fragile, priceless artifact, something beautiful but terrifying to hold. "Thanks," they said softly, looking down at their hands. Alex tilted his head, studying Jamie with a curious expression. "Why do you do that?" "Do what?" "Act like you're not worth noticing." The question caught Jamie off guard, and they froze, their heart pounding in their chest. Before they could come up with a response, the sound of the front door opening interrupted them. "Hey, losers." Mia's voice rang out as she walked into the living room, followed by two other friends from their history group. She stopped short when she saw Alex, her eyes widening in surprise. "Oh, hey Alex. Didn't know you'd be here." Alex grinned, leaning back against the couch. "Yeah, Jamie invited me. Guess they couldn't resist my charm." Mia shot Jamie a look that was equal parts amusement and disbelief. Jamie avoided her gaze, their cheeks burning. The rest of the group settled in, and the dynamic shifted as everyone started working on the project. But even as the conversation turned to historical events and essay outlines, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling of Alex's eyes on them. Every time they glanced up, he was watching them with that same teasing smile, as if they were sharing a private joke. By the time the group wrapped up, Jamie's nerves were frayed, but there was also a strange, giddy feeling bubbling in their chest. As everyone gathered their things to leave, Alex lingered by the door, turning to Jamie with a smirk. "Thanks for having me," he said, his voice soft but loaded with meaning. "We should do this again sometime." Before Jamie could respond, Alex was gone, leaving them standing in the doorway with a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside them. They didn't know what to make of Alex's behavior, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just a one-time thing. And Jamie wasn't sure if they were ready for what came next. The days following the study session were a blur of stolen glances and whispered conversations. Alex's flirtation became a constant presence in Jamie's life, like a song stuck on repeat. He'd show up at Jamie's locker between classes, leaning casually against the wall with that infuriatingly charming smile. He'd text Jamie late at night, sending memes and jokes that left Jamie laughing into their pillow. And in class, he'd find excuses to sit next to Jamie, his knee brushing theirs under the table in a way that made Jamie's heart race. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, and utterly confusing. Jamie didn't know what to make of Alex's attention. Was it genuine? Or was it just another game to him? They tried to push the doubts aside, focusing instead on the way Alex's eyes lit up when he laughed, or the way his voice softened when he talked to Jamie. For the first time, Jamie felt seen, truly seen, and it was both exhilarating and terrifying. But then, everything changed. It happened on a Friday afternoon, after school. Jamie was heading to the library to return a book when they heard voices coming from the empty classroom next door. They recognized Alex's voice immediately, its familiar cadence drawing them closer. But as they approached, the tone of the conversation made them freeze. "So, how's Operation Jamie going?" one of Alex's friends asked, his voice dripping with amusement. Jamie's breath caught in their throat. They pressed themselves against the wall, their heart pounding as they listened. "Oh, it's going great," Alex replied, his voice light and carefree. "They're so easy to mess with. I mean, they actually think I'm into them. It's kind of sad, honestly." The words hit Jamie like a punch to the gut, knocking the air out of their lungs. They clutched the book to their chest, their hands trembling as Alex continued. "I mean, it was just a bet, right? See how long it would take to make the quiet kid fall for me. And honestly, it's been way easier than I thought. They're so desperate for attention, it's almost pathetic." Jamie's vision blurred as tears welled up in their eyes. They felt like they were falling, the ground crumbling beneath them as the truth sank in. It had all been a lie. Every smile, every compliment, every lingering touch, none of it had been real. The sound of laughter echoed from the classroom, sharp and cruel, and Jamie couldn't take it anymore. They turned and ran, their footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. They didn't stop until they reached the safety of the library, collapsing into a chair in the farthest corner. For a long time, Jamie just sat there, staring at the wall as the weight of Alex's betrayal settled over them. They felt stupid, naive, forever believing someone like Alex could actually care about them. They'd let their guard down, allowed themselves to hope, and now they were paying the price. When Jamie finally gathered the strength to leave the library, they found Alex waiting for them by the front doors. His expression was unreadable as he stepped forward, his usual confidence replaced by something softer, almost apologetic. "Jamie, hey," he said, his voice tentative. "Can we talk?" Jamie shook their head, their throat too tight to speak. They pushed past him, their chest aching with a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Jamie, wait." Alex called after them, but Jamie didn't stop. They couldn't. Not now. As they walked home, the tears finally spilled over, streaming down their face as the reality of what had happened sank in. Alex had played them, and Jamie had fallen for it. But as much as it hurt, they knew one thing for certain. They wouldn't let him do it again. The days that followed were a blur of quiet determination and slow healing. Jamie threw themselves into their schoolwork, finding solace in the familiar rhythm of assignments and deadlines. They avoided the hallways where Alex might be, opting instead for longer routes that took them past empty classrooms and quiet corners. It wasn't easy. Every time they caught a glimpse of Alex's smile or heard his laugh echoing down the hallway, their chest tightened with a mix of anger and longing. But Jamie was determined to move on, to prove to themselves that they were stronger than Alex's betrayal. Mia was their rock during those weeks. She didn't ask for details, but she seemed to sense Jamie's pain, offering quiet support and endless distractions. They spent hours together after school, binge-watching TV shows and baking cookies that always came out slightly burnt. Mia's presence was a comforting constant, a reminder that Jamie wasn't alone. One afternoon, as they sat on Mia's bedroom floor surrounded by textbooks and half-finished homework, Jamie finally opened up. They told Mia everything, the accidental invitation, the flirting, the overheard conversation. Mia listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with every word. "That jerk," she said when Jamie finished, her voice sharp with anger. "I can't believe he did that to you." Jamie shrugged, trying to seem indifferent even as their chest ached. "I should have known better. I mean, why would someone like him ever be interested in someone like me?" Mia reached out, squeezing Jamie's hand. "Don't say that. You're amazing, Jamie. Alex is the one who's messed up, not you." Her words were a balm to Jamie's wounded pride, but they still struggled to believe them. It wasn't until a few weeks later, during a school assembly, that Jamie began to see things differently. The assembly was about inclusivity and acceptance, and as the speaker talked about the importance of being true to oneself, Jamie felt something shift inside them. They realized that they'd been hiding, not just from Alex, but from themselves. They'd spent so long trying to blend in, to avoid standing out, that they'd forgotten who they were. That afternoon, Jamie made a decision. They gathered their closest friends, Mia, of course, and a few others, and came out to them. It wasn't a grand announcement, just a quiet confession over milkshakes at their favorite diner. But the way their friends reacted, with smiles and hugs and promises of support, filled Jamie with a sense of relief they hadn't realized they needed. As the weeks turned into months, Jamie began to rebuild their confidence. They joined the school's art club, rediscovering their love for painting and drawing. They started speaking up more in class, their voice growing steadier with each passing day. And slowly, the pain of Alex's betrayal began to fade, replaced by a quiet sense of pride in how far they'd come. They saw Alex occasionally, of course. He'd try to catch their eye in the hallway, his expression unreadable, but Jamie refused to give him the satisfaction of a reaction. They'd moved on, and Alex was no longer a part of their story. One afternoon, as Jamie was leaving school, they ran into Alex near the front gates. He looked different somehow, less confident, more hesitant. For a moment, they just stood there, the air between them heavy with unspoken words. "Jamie," Alex said finally, his voice soft. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything." Jamie studied him for a moment, searching for any hint of insincerity. but all they saw was regret. "Thanks," they said simply. And then they walked away, their head held high. As they stepped out into the sunlight, Jamie felt a sense of peace they hadn't known in months. They didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, they were excited to find out.